Hello and welcome to Family Dynamics. It's Katherine.
And Liz.
And John.
And we have a special guest with us. Mom is here. Say hi, Mom.
Hello.
Nice to have you. So if I recall correctly, which I didn't actually remember this, John had to look it up.
How did you
recall
that?
Yeah, I mean, like, who is kidding that I would remember where we left off with you? I'm not going to get away with that.
Because it's been a few weeks that we've had you and Mom, right?
Yeah. Correct. Plus, we had you in with your sister. So that was kind of out of sequence.
Right.
Storytelling.
Okay.
But now we're going to get back to your story. So according to John, we left off, you were pregnant with Rosemary. So that's number 5. And
I mean, I feel like maybe we covered it. Did we really just skip over the first 4?
oh no, I think we covered it.
All right. Okay. John's like, what the hell we did?
This is the 9th time. So we've covered a lot.
I like to cover my birth
We've had you in
times.
9 times, Mom?
Well, this is the 9th solo time.
This is the 9th solo time? Wow, I really stuttered on that. I was so shocked.
As long as we feel like we've really covered my birth and all of its importance.
That's what you were
so it's really just Liz.
It's the first 4, not just you. You're
Oh, just moi. Okay, so Elizabeth has arrived thinking she's really going to have some buffer here. The 4th child, 2 boys, 2 girls. So I would think most of the world feels like you should be done, right, Mom?
Everybody said, oh, how great. You got 2 boys, 2 girls. Isn't that terrific? I always would say, we're probably not done.
Oh, you knew you weren't done. Oh, wait. I have a question. This came up on the other podcast. We were talking about the little monikers that you had given everybody. So it was James the First, William the Conqueror. Is that right? No? Uh-oh. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And then Catherine the Great, which is awesome because that's me. This came up because I'm watching a show called The Great, which is actually about Catherine the Great. And there was some confusion over whether or not I was named after Catherine the Great, which I'm not.
Hardly.
Right. No, I'm named after Saint Catherine of Assisi or something, right?
So Catholic.
Catherine Seton.
Oh,
who wasn't
Seton.
even a saint yet.
Oh, okay.
And then became one.
Well, that was risky. What if she didn't make it?
Hey, I knew.
Oh my gosh. Probably from like the 1500s. And it's like, Mom's like, she's going to get through eventually.
She was a mover and shaker in the United States.
Oh, a mover and shaker.
All right. So what was Elizabeth?
Yeah, what was Elizabeth? Because we couldn't remember that.
I have my own theory, but the Queen.
Catherine the Queen? Yeah.
No. Catherine the Great. Definitely Catherine the Great.
And Elizabeth the Queen.
I thought it was
right.
Elizabeth the Queen, but
I don't know if I've just made my own history.
I think maybe you've just...
Because the next one was Rosemary the baby.
Well, I did remember that, yeah.
I've said, because I also think I was named after a saint, which was Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton, who was an American teacher in the United States. And, right, Mom?
Yeah.
Right.
She doesn't have an E after her name, however.
Yeah. Is there also a Catherine Seton? I'm trying to research and I'm not.
Oh, did you say Catherine? I thought it was
Siena.
Catherine of Siena. That's what I said. But I was happy to be wrong because I don't know any of this.
Your grandmother was Catherine, so that was one of the reasons.
Oh, okay.
And then when you came along, Elizabeth, this is a very funny story. You took your time coming, and finally...
I was late. How shocking.
Wow. It was from birth.
Almost everybody was. Everybody was.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
it is a Killmond
Probably
trait.
was my thing that I was late.
It's all thanks from your DNA. We got the late gene.
Yeah. Anyway, I was pretty sure today was the day for Elizabeth. And so we got kind of ready, and we got Mom a birthday present, my mother.
Because it was October 16th.
Yeah. And so
Yeah, your birthday twin.
We stopped on our way to the hospital.
Oh, my
Because it wasn't urgent. You know, I knew it wasn't. And so anyway, so we had gotten a mug rack because we could never find a mug at her house.
She probably had fine china.
That's right.
Right.
And it really
Well,
was
in the
annoying.
cabinet, yeah.
Yeah, it was annoying because of coffee. You don't want to have to worry about the vehicle.
The teacup and saucer.
Yeah, she
Oh,
had them
no.
on display, not
Yeah.
really for use.
No. Anyway, so, oh, that's so nice, blah, 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 blah. So we have a little chat, and we said, well, it's time to go. And Mom said, oh, no, stay for lunch. No, we really have to go get your real present. She said, oh, but this is just fine. This is just... What?
Oh, then she realized, oh, you're going to go have
And
this baby right now?
It really didn't take very long when we got there.
Oh,
You're
nice.
probably in full labor at Nana's house.
Well,
They were living in Van Nuys area, right, of San Fernando Valley. They weren't in the city at that point.
No, we were still over on the west side.
Oh, they were on the west side as well.
Yeah.
I was a west side baby. Very prestigious.
Yeah, cool.
Born in St. Monica's.
So you got to be careful. You can't say that because then people can use that as your, secret questions.
Oh, okay.
And it's also wrong anyway.
Where was I born?
I'm
What?
not
Oh,
gonna
wait,
tell
don't say.
you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's go back and recap. It was James
The first.
the First, William
the Conqueror,
Catherine the Great.
and Elizabeth the Queen. And then now we're going to circle back to Rosemary the Herb.
The baby. And then Liz's theory is that it should have been Rosemary the Herb.
I mean, went from all these very royal sounding names to Rosemary.
Oh.
And I will put this in context. I mean, she is like my best friend, and I call her Rosie, but she now as an adult likes to be called the full name Rosemary.
Yeah, she doesn't like Rosie, even though
No.
we all call her that.
What's funny is we go on walks in our neighborhood, and there are wild rosemary bushes everywhere, and she always will like run her hand over it because you can get almost like the natural oil on
Oh,
it
yeah,
and
sure.
smell. And I'm like, Rosemary the Herb. And you can't call her Rosemary the baby because there was 3 more children after that.
Well, we didn't know that.
Well,
at the
actually,
time.
out of all the kids, that moniker might have actually fit her. So you were pregnant with her. See,
Yes.
we're going to go way back to the beginning. You were pregnant with Rosemary.
We're living on the west side at
This
this
is
point.
going to be the
Yeah.
5th child,
Yes,
and you had an epiphany.
I did. Your dad signed me up for catechetical teacher training.
How do you pronounce that?
What is it?
Like you go and you teach
But
the public school kids.
The CCD,
Yeah, the CCD.
training.
Okay, what?
Confraternity of Catholic Doctrine. They don't call
Wow.
it that.
What? One more time?
Confraternity mean the brotherhood of Catholic doctrine.
Okay.
So he signed me up for teacher training.
While you were pregnant?
No, it was after I had you.
Okay.
Before I was pregnant.
Like you weren't busy with 4 children. Okay.
And
Why did he
I
sign
said,
you up?
Your dad, without much consulting, pushed me in the direction of becoming a catechism teacher, of going back to school, teaching with my teaching credential, which I got at, some late date in my life. Mm-hmm. And then he encouraged me to go and get a master's in religious studies. All his ideas.
Interesting.
And
He wanted you to put that energy somewhere.
or he'd like to know where I was for an hour every week.
That's true.
And that was just the timing of it. I never would have gone there except for him.
Yeah.
And I never would have done it when I did.
Because for those of you who don't know what CCD is, it's basically a Sunday school, right? So
Only
teaching
on Saturdays.
Okay.
Oh, it's
But-
on Saturday?
What? No.
I thought it was during church for the younger kids. Well, there was a version of it that was that, but you're saying
Maybe that was just Sunday school. But it's maybe for kids that are Catholic but are not enrolled in Catholic school, so they're going to get a Catholic education. So it was on the weekend. But you're going to be around kids, which I, as a mother of 4, would be like, can I have a job that does not involve children?
Evidently, I didn't think so.
I know,
because
that's
guess not.
amazing.
I went right on. And
I'm like, I need a break.
wouldn't you have thought after 4 teenage girls all at the same time, I would have thought, I don't want to teach teenagers.
I
But
do
did
not
that
know
for
how. I'm
many
not going
years.
to name names, but I know how you survive certain ones of us.
Oh, I've even heard that from their mouths.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're now enrolled. Dad enrolled you in CCD training, and
or like a seminar or something.
I had you. I was kind of back from the. Did I talk about the long depression I had after you?
I mean, we did hear most of how this epiphany came about, that you
Okay.
then went to the
Congress.
Congress, and then what it really meant for you and the aspect of your faith as far as your father and how you felt about the fear and finding something new.
because there's a religious congress that happens every year that you've gone to for decades, right? Most of your adult life.
Since my stroke, I haven't gone.
Oh.
It's like 35,000 people.
Just to navigate through it.
Yeah.
Someone would have to go
And it
with
didn't-
you.
I liked it. It was fun. I ran into people I hadn't seen in years every time and blah, blah, blah. But after I had the stroke, I was like, I can't move that fast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, in a huge
I mean,
convention center.
You've got to get from one place to the other
For
your
lectures and
whatever.
talks.
And so I haven't done that. So,
But you did it for decades. I remember as a kid, it was like so.
I started when I was pregnant with Rosemary.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Like, Mom's going to be out of town, and
For a whole
know
weekend.
where Dad's going to be. And James is the babysitter, and he's going to be upstairs reading J.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. So he did not give a shit what we were doing.
Pretty much.
That was our childhood.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
We knock on wood, what I will not do now to disturb all of you, but we survived it. So just to recap, what was that epiphany at the Congress while you were then pregnant with Rosemary?
So, I'm trying to pinpoint it, but I came to the Congress because your dad sent me. He said, well, of course you're going to go.
God, he was
I said,
really trying to get
"What?"
rid of you a lot.
You
He was
really
being
have
supportive.
A bad
Yeah.
interpretation
No,
on that.
you sometimes don't get my sarcasm, where I think as a husband, I think that's amazing he would support you doing this with 4 children, a 5th on the way. But I think it was, looking back, a way for you to, he probably recognized you had this immense amount of energy and desire to learn, and he was helping you direct that, because maybe voluntarily it would have been too hard for you to see even how to do that.
Yeah. It just,
So no, I'm only being sarcastic. I think it's amazing that Dad did that.
Well, what's interesting? So I started the teacher training for religious ed, and I had also signed up for an exercise class or something at local high school, and it was really too much. So I dropped the exercise program.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, you had to be, just to keep up with 4 kids pregnant. I mean, I guess just to be in shape, but you probably were not overweight by any means.
No, I wore a size 5.
Yeah, because that is just the calories you were burning on the daily.
Oh, yeah,
must have been
yeah,
insane.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I'm going along in this class, and Dad came with me a couple of times. He didn't really enjoy it, so I was glad.
Wait, the exercise class?
No, the
I couldn't even imagine Dad exercising. Because
when
Dad
he
was the
thought
same.
of it, he would sit down in his recliner until he got over it.
Yeah, because Dad was always like the same, kind of slight, always the same size, really his entire life.
Yeah, we got married, and he was 147, and 2 or 3 years in, he got sick one night, and he had terrible chills and all that, and lost 5 pounds, never gained it back. That's it. Period.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers also was 142 pounds.
Oh, okay.
His adult life.
I think it might have been, Mr. Rogers might have been 143, because there's also the 143 I love you thing. So, which we remember from the movie. Some of us.
Right, the documentary too. I think they broached that.
Okay, maybe it was. I have no idea.
Dad did have a Mr. Rogers vibe.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So
When
okay,
he was in a good place.
So he was not attending the exercise class with you. He sat in on the CCD training classes.
And it was interesting. This is going to mean nothing to anybody but older Catholics listening. That took place in my life shortly after the Vatican II.
Sure.
And this priest was so high on Vatican II. And he would come in with all the stuff that they were saying. And I'd say, wait a minute, what about, because I had 16 years of Catholic education, so more than most of the people in the class, but they all were traditionalists, and they would be thanking me afterward class. I'm so glad you asked him about that. I didn't know how to ask. And I thought,
Yeah, because if people don't know what Vatican II is, it was a shift in the church to
open the window.
Really
modernize it. So, masses were said in Latin for traditional Catholic churches, and allowing a more openness. Even at that point, I think they allowed masses to be said outside the church. You could have a wedding outside the church, which I think there's been some pullback on that now. But yeah, it was a big revolutionary time in the Catholic faith that they were loosening up some of sort of the restrictions or some of the long held traditions.
Yeah. And so anyway, so it was really good for me because in having that exchange in class with somebody who's really up on this new stuff, and I was, well versed in the old stuff, I got a lot of clarity. And so anyway, I wasn't pregnant until I started that class.
Oh.
That happened a little way in. And
Were you trying to get pregnant?
No.
Were you still breastfeeding me? Because Rosie and I are very close in age.
Well, what happened was they told us, and I understood it, but sort of incorrectly, that you're infertile when you're nursing.
No, you're super fertile, aren't you?
No.
Oh.
But if you're really nursing, you are infertile. But the way doctors move you is to start introducing solid food.
Or
At
like
about 3
rice
months.
cereal or
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
That's weaning.
Oh, okay.
And weaning, all bets are off.
Oh.
So
So if you are strictly breastfeeding, your chances of getting pregnant are very low.
very low, yeah.
I mean, because listen, I mean, you are pretty depleted. I mean, but
Yeah.
bodies can do amazing things. But so once you start weaning or introducing something other than breastfeeding, you're saying then it's all bets are off and you're back to normal fertility. But you weren't having
At some
what, John?
point.
Well, just not because the child is eating food, but because you, the mother, are not
Nursing
breastfeeding
as much. Yeah.
right? Is that
Yeah,
the point?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
yeah.
But did you get a normal cycle or period?
Not yet.
Yeah, because sometimes
it returns unpredictably. You can't really say when it's going to come back.
So you thought you were still in the safe zone.
And you were a nightmare to give solid foods to. We had someone actually living in at that time, and we'd get her to feed you, we'd get James to feed you, we'd get guests to feed you. I mean, you were just take one in, let go of two.
But, at 3 months, gosh, it's been a while, and maybe you don't remember either. 3
I want to
months,
say it's closer to
yeah, they
6
have
months.
shifted
It's-
that
Yeah, it's
to the
kinda-
point where the introduction of like a rice cereal or anything like that, I don't think it's 3 months anymore, Mom. I think it's
no.
moved up because it's like, so I just knew it wasn't right, and that's why I was rejecting it.
Oh,
Okay?
obviously.
All right.
See, we're so smart,
So-
even in those days. Yeah, so...
And I mean, Katherine, you had to only be 2 years old. So, I mean, this was all insane. So you had 4 already at that point, probably under the age of 5.
Well, I think James had just turned 4
Yikes. Okay,
in
so.
August, and you were born in October.
Okay.
Okay,
So now
anyway,
you're at the CCD class.
This is something I didn't bring up before, I don't think. But the Billings, which were both doctors, husband and wife, in Australia, took seriously the Vatican teaching on birth control. And
Were these family friends of yours or?
no, I'll explain.
Okay.
So the Pope said, try and help these people instead of, putting them on the pill or, having a vasectomy or tube side or whatever. He said, work with nature and see what you can come up with. And these 2 doctors took it seriously, and they figured out that you can really get a real look at whether or not you are fertile by watching the excretions.
This is the rhythm method.
No, it's not.
Oh, what's it
It's
called?
actually based on, it's called the Billings method. It's actually based on your body giving you signals.
Is this also where you take your temperature every day?
Well, we did. So we knew the very first day we were pregnant with Rosemary.
Oh, really?
You're not supposed to do what they call a cafeteria style, where you take your temperature and you kind of watch the Billings thing and do the other,
Oh my gosh.
So anyway,
This sounds like so much work when you had 4
it was
children.
interesting. It was
oh my
interesting.
God.
And we found out, I'm not going into the story, it was phenomenal, but
Well, I mean, thanks. Why not?
okay. So there was this missionary priest who came and spoke at our parish. It's really kind of amazing. And Dad was a Eucharistic minister. So he asked her, elector, I can't remember which, and he asked him to come to dinner. So he said he would. And he had red hair, and he was really cute and young, and he worked in Fiji, but he came from Australia. So that's where the Billings came from. We didn't know anything about them. And so we got, had a great dinner. Kids were running around playing, having a great time. And we got into some real conversation. And one of the things I was very annoyed with the church, because they didn't make good provision for mothers with multiple children. And yet they're teaching something that leaves you with multiple children. It's like, wait a minute, this is kind of bogus. And so anyway, he says, I don't know, there's this couple, these doctors down in Australia, and they just don't seem to have any problem with this.
Okay.
Like, what? That couldn't possibly be true. And so anyway, he says, well, he told us a little bit about them, a little bit that he knew, and We thought, well, let's find out about this.
This is pre-internet, so it's going to really require research.
Oh, we did. And we got a hold of the publishing company in Australia, and they sent us a book. And it was very interesting the way it was, laid out for you in that publication, because it had a lot of Australian ways of saying things.
Oh, okay.
So it was a little bit confusing.
Down under?
Yeah, I thought
Was that their term for vagina?
Honestly, Liz, I thought, is that because they're down under that they've got this locked?
Oh, my God. Okay.
So anyway, so I'm nursing you still. And so they came to L.A., and they only invited doctors and pastors. And somehow we got in on it.
Whoa.
So we went and heard them speak.
At someone's house or a church?
No, big auditorium at St. John's Hospital.
Oh.
And I'm sitting there and I'm just amazed at what I'm hearing. And the assistant pastor from our parish started walking out walking toward me. I was still sitting. And he said, you're supposed to do this, teach this.
What? Oh my gosh, all these people sign you up for stuff.
And I thought, what is right? And I got to tell you, the first time I did it, I was still nursing you, still had no period, had no idea from my own experience that it worked, but they had, wonderful statistics.
God. And where did you teach that?
St. John's.
Oh my God.
Till I had Eddie.
Wow. What? I don't think I knew anything about this.
Oh,
so you were teaching the Billings method at St. John's Hospital located
in Santa Monica.
You would drive there?
Well, we lived there.
Not by the time we're having Eddie.
No, and I did go from over here. Yeah. Anyway.
You were at child number 7. It's like,
and I would
trust me, it works, people.
No, I said, trust me, I know every way to bollocks this up. So just let me tell
okay,
you.
that's a good way to put it.
And of course, everybody laughed and haha. And, it was really quite obvious what had gone wrong.
So this was the temperature, your body.
No.
Oh,
you let the other ones go and only trust your body to tell you what's going on. And
yikes.
Then you apply the rules of abstinence given the signs you're getting.
Now, people have sort of used some of this knowledge. I know some of my girlfriends to get pregnant as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the reverse.
Because
we sat in a bar and talked about this to an alumni of Villanova that Frank knew, and they were having trouble and they hadn't gotten pregnant and they were really despondent. And I said, well, you can just use this method in reverse.
Yeah.
And they got pregnant.
Yeah, it's listening to your body and knowing, for some women, the time duration of ovulation it's very short. And so really listening to your body and realizing it might be 48 hours, it might even be less than the normal window. But so I did not know you ever taught this method, much less at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica.
For that long, too. Yeah.
I remember Ginny saying to me, Ginny, number 6, saying to me, well, that's kind of ridiculous. What in the world did you do that for? And I said, you wouldn't be here if I didn't.
Oh. Meaning, wait, because you bollocks or it was on purpose?
Oh, no, I screwed it up. Yet a new way.
Yeah, you and Dad seem to be very active. So, I mean, they're probably like you're hitting the window more often than not.
Whoopsie.
Okay, so that is very interesting. So then you are sitting there getting the Billings lecture from these 2 doctors from Australia directly. You knew you were pregnant with Rosemary at this point?
No, I wasn't. But when I got pregnant, I knew how I got
how
pregnant.
did you know? Like you took your temperature and is it spiked or low? High or low?
I think it goes up but the problem area, if you happen to be hyper
fertile. Clearly you were.
Yeah, we were in the top 3% for what we figured out.
I would guess, yes.
Yeah, and it goes up. But the body gives you other signals, and you don't use the part just before. You don't make it that tight. It's the before part that is usually more of a zone for getting messed up or, misled. Although, what we found out, which was, sperm were only supposed to live at the very most 48 hours. We know that that's not true.
Dad's lasted longer. Like, what do you say?
They were well rested, they were having a good time.
Yeah, let's sing about sperm. Like, my gosh. Okay, so wait a minute.
Okay, so
what is this epiphany? So have we even gotten to that?
We got to I'm pregnant. I'm really pretty okay with it. And Dad insists that I have to go to the conference. And I get there, and the very first guy I heard speak, there was a book out, something about the priest in the outdated church. And this priest just kind of threw the whole thing in the toilet.
Mean that he did not feel like they were outdated, or
no, he felt like they were just so outdated, they were ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
And so anyway, so the very first speaker I heard came at it the other way, and really said, "This is why it's not outdated." And he said, "Stop sitting in the vestibule and come into the fire." Oh, I was just like, He had knocked down all of these, attitudes of resistance and of protection of yourself. If you really come up against the idea of God forefront and, face to face from that kind of background where it's kind of scary and there's too many rules, and it's terrifying. I remember now. So I'm sitting there, and I went to hear this teacher who was the head of the psych department when I was in college.
What college?
Holy Names up in Oakland.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a psych major, but you couldn't sign up for that till you were a sophomore. But I used to study late in the library. It's the only place I could keep my concentration. And so I go by, walking up to my room, and the head of the psych department's door was always open, and her light was always on, and she was always in there. I mean, till late at night. And we would have these great talks. Go by and say, "Hi, Sister so-and-so," and, after a nun.
Oh, she was a nun. Ah.
Yeah, and so I wanted to hear her speak, and it was on prayer, and it was like, ho-hum,
At the Congress.
Yeah, and she'll tell us to say the rosary and whatever. But I just wanted to hear her, so I thought, okay, I'll sign up for that one. And so they had the stupidest arrangement of their sessions. They had an hour-and-a-half session after lunch.
Oh, everyone wanted to go sleep.
Yeah.
Probably most people
Oh,
did.
you
They
did
changed.
not last. There's no way.
Oh, yeah, I did. She was fabulous.
Oh, that is shocking.
She was a much better speaker to a whole group than I would have thought. And the whole first half, they gave you a break in the middle of this so you could get up and stretch and wake up. And so I didn't want to get up and move or anything. I was, too big for my own good at that
Oh, how
point.
far along in the pregnancy were you?
5 months.
You were already big at 5 months? Well, your body was like, here
Yeah.
we go again.
I didn't even look pregnant until after 6 months with you.
Right.
We were on the skinny road.
And then it was
But
like,
then
no.
it was like, these muscles have had it.
Oh.
Anyway, so I just sat there afterwards. But the whole first half, all she talked about was relationships and what's a friend and how we need friends. And the best thing to really advance and solidify a friendship is to tell the truth about the relationship. So I was really pondering that, and then she broke. So it doesn't take a genius. I thought she's going to talk about God and having God in a relationship, and you have to start with the truth. And I said, God, all I have for you is fear. I don't want to break the rules because that gets you in trouble and you won't get to heaven and, all that kind of stuff, which is kind of childish. And so I just sat there with that, absolutely stunned by what I realized. And then the next thing that came to me was, I'm afraid you'll overwhelm me. And then I thought, what's so great? Go ahead and do it. And that changed my whole life right at that moment. And it was so interesting. Everybody came back. She finished the thing. And she got down off the, they have like a raised, I don't know what you call it.
Like a stage or a dais or something.
Yeah. And she came down and she came over to me and she gave me a big hug. Oh, there's no way she knew who I was. How could she remember this 18-year-old, 17-year-old that showed up in her office and, we had funny conversations. And then there I was.
You don't think she knew who you were or made the connection?
No, well, because it was like a
She made a
blip in her.
connection
Yeah.
with me in that moment. And she knew it.
Wow.
And so 2 or 3 things happened in the rest of the Congress that just made me know for sure that this was really a big deal moment. One of them was Saturday night, and I guess this was the day of. Saturday night, they had the mass at 5 o'clock or something, and you're in a athletic stadium. So it's in the
So you're not actually in a church. You're in a big sort of arena.
Arena, exactly.
Okay.
They called it the arena. And I don't know, they have basketball games there and stuff. And so anyway, I got to the middle of Mass, and they lifted up the host and said, "This is my body given up for you." And then it came to me, "You just lay down your life for a friend." And I thought, "Hi, friend."
Oh, Rosie in your belly. Oh, yeah. Well,
And then there were some other things that happened, a couple of things on Sunday and stuff, and I just knew. So I come home, and I'm just on fire.
oh God, Dad was probably just like, oh, jeez,
What did I do now?
Yeah.
And so we'd go talk to the pastor, and blah blah blah. So Dad was teaching at Holy Family in Glendale. Now this may seem very disconnected, but it's Catholic girls high school, and they loved him.
What
And-
subject did he teach there?
Oh, I don't even remember now.
Later in our lives, it was speech, theater.
English.
History,
Yeah.
Okay.
drafting. I mean,
Drafting.
he worked in the shipyard one summer, so he knew about drafting.
What?
Yeah.
At what age did that happen?
Oh, that was the last year at Chaminade. So he done.
When did he work in a shipping
when
yard?
he was in college.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Summer jobs. So anyway, and he had students who had been going to the charismatic renewal meetings at Loyola. And they were so jazzed about them, and they wanted him to go, and they wanted him to go, and they kept talking to him about going. And so he said, "I know, why don't you go?"
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he never knew what he was getting into.
Jeez.
And I went, and I was like,
It blew your mind.
It was just great.
Oh, my
it was
goodness.
like, I understand these people.
I did want to get back to one thing when you talked about this relationship with God was fear-based for you.
Yeah.
A story for another time, how I ran our Catholic family bookstore. I had so many interesting conversations with people about their relationship with God. And I remember one in particular that someone sort of had that same fear, but their sort of, evolution was understanding the relationship Jesus had with God. And that Jesus not only had disappointment, fear, resentment, love, like a true paternal relationship. And that is what the sort of template for us as humans should have with God, to know that infallible, that the idea that we are human, therefore to have these emotions and have these challenging conversations with God or question God is to be human. And therefore to have a state of fear is to not really have what is a full relationship with God.
Yeah, I like that you said it was childish. I mean,
Yeah.
it's too simple and
And it was,
yeah.
it was, you can manipulate this, by being perfect.
Yeah, it doesn't
Are you
exist.
kidding me?
And God, if we are to, I think all of us have, at this age and stage in our lives have had things happen or things happen to our friends or family that are, if everything is this all omnipresent, loving God, it doesn't make sense. So that you can be mad at him and go, why? And be pissed for a long time.
Yeah.
But the way to process that is to acknowledge it and work through it, whatever your God is, right? Because things happen here on earth that, like, even if it's like the karma energy field, that is one of those things, like, you have to understand that it's beyond your control. And so therefore to be frustrated, to have moments of gratitude, to be thankful, to ups, downs, that's normal. And in some ways, sometimes I feel the messaging that goes out is like this perfect, all loving God, all judging, which is to this day, I do not understand how this has been pivoted to God is not accepting, when Jesus, his example here on earth, was one of the most accepting. I mean, if you really read the Bible, really accepting. So, I think that's interesting, but we are taught in the Catholic Church, it is almost fear-based at first. And like, if you do this, you're not going to get into heaven. You'll never be forgiven. Where the overall story is forgiveness of yourself
absolutely.
and then of us, of humans, of God, because he will disappoint us. There are things that happen in your life that you have a right in your relationship, your friendship with God, to be disappointed.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to work it through.
Well, it's not even work it through. You have to give it up.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get a tit for tat answer.
No.
No, you just have to say, well, I came on something, this is fast forward to this year. And I found a prayer that I just love. And it says, God, I surrender everything. Take care of it.
Yeah, just let it
Period.
go.
That's it.
And that, like I
And
said,
when you find yourself fearful or anxious or upset or disappointed, and you recognize it and you say, I got to get back to that prayer because that's really where I want to be.
you actually very close to that. I remember back to the store, I used to have quite a few people come in and they had to buy rosaries or they had to buy this or that because the end of the world is this date and this time, like next week. And they're telling me, and I'd be like, oh, God, because in the back of my mind, oh, God, what are you doing to me, God? In the back of my mind, of course, I'd made the sale. I mean, I'm not an idiot. Yes, you're right. It is going to end by $150 worth of stuff.
Oh, you're off.
Well, what am I going to say? And I remember.
I would not sell St. Joseph statues to people who.
Oh my
wanted
God,
to
Mom!
bury
That was
them
one of our
in the back.
biggest price points. Anyway, I haven't been to the church in 20 years, but I'm selling my house. I need a St. Joseph statue to bury
you
in
need
the yard.
a really good one.
And I'd be like, gosh, you know what? Then you're going to need the $125 carved wood one, not the $195 plastic one I have in the back. Yes, that St. Joseph. For those of you that do not know, he is the patron saint of carpenters. So. At some point, somehow, real estate agents made it like if you bury it upside down in your yard, facing the property, all these weird, like we had to print out the instructions, it would help your house sale. And I mean, Dad and I, when Dad was alive and then when I took over, I mean, we seriously had from $1.95 up to like $200. And there were people that would come in like, oh, I need the $200 statue. Like my house is really expensive and I really need to sell. But so I would also have
need all the help I can get.
need all the help I get. So people would come in and tell me the end of the world was coming, and so they need their holy water, they need all this stuff, and I'd be like, "Sure, the survival kit. Here you go." So I remember coming home one time because this one woman got me very upset, and I told you, and this goes back to I surrender. You said it's actually in the Bible that no one here on earth is to know that. That is God's plan. So for you to worry about it, to fret about it, we will never know. And really our lifetimes in the blip of whether, like I said, God, karma, energy flow, whatever religion you are, we are a blip in the timeline of history. So that even this is going to happen in our lifetime is like very unlikely. And we're not supposed to live in fear. It goes back to that. Yeah. He does not. We as human beings, it's like there's things that we cannot control. So to let it go and surrender, and listen, people meditate. It can be all different ways to find your inner peace, to say, I can't control this. So deep breath, surrender.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I was seriously, and then I will say, I remember driving on the street and looked down and go, whoosh, it's 12:42. The world did not end. I mean, seriously, you have to understand. I mean, so many people. So then you actually also taught me this when someone would come in, I go, okay. Yes, we have everything you need. I go, but I don't want to know. Don't tell me the date and the time. I don't want to know it. You're really going to tell everybody to be prepared? I'm like, no, I actually don't. Now, what can I sell you?
How many statues do you need?
I know. All right, we'll be, all right. So then, wow, this was an interesting sort of deep dive into your epiphany that led you along the Billings, the CCD, a lot of interesting pathways. Rosie,
sort of your adult religious life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the epiphany and involvement of it.
Guess what?
What?
I ended up teaching Catholic school in high school because of this one.
John. All right, well, John, you can thank the Billings method that you even exist, but we're not even going to get into that now because one thing that we've never discussed on this podcast is our mother, even being 80 years old, is super busy. So she has another appointment. She's got to go.
We only got her for this small window.
Yeah, she's the hard out. She's the one we got to wrap up. So, Mom, thank you for joining us. It's so, I mean, that's why when you're like, it's a phenomenal story, I'm not going to tell it. No, the whole point is we want to hear all the
tell
stories.
the story. This is the time.
So thank you. It was very enlightening. I mean, there are certain things I have to go back and digest and think about. So,
and take notes so that you know where we are.
yes, you can pick back up. Yes, no, we're all good. All right, so Mom, thank you for joining us and sharing once again your HERstory. We appreciate it. And thank you for all listening to Family DynamiKs. That's Family DynamiKs with a K. You can follow us on all of our social at Family DynamiKs, once again with a K. And now our episodes are up on YouTube.
Correct. They're at the Knack Entertainment YouTube channel, so you can find all of the episodes there.
So thank you again for listening to Family DynamiKs.